Wonderful. We are being live streamed. Okay, let's get started. Good evening, everyone. Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of regular meetings on the bulletin board of the municipal building, by mailing the annual notice of regular meetings for 2022 to the News Record and Star Ledger in December 2021, and by filing said notice in the office of the Township Clerk.
Ms. Adams?
Here.
Ms. Cripe?
Here.
Mr. DeLuca?
Here.
Mr. McGehee?
Here.
Mayor Daffis.
Here.
Whereas Chapter 231, Public Laws 1975, commonly known as the Open Public Meetings Act, requires that all meetings of public bodies be open to the public. And whereas Section 7A provides that the governing body has the discretion to permit, prohibit, or regulate the active participation of the public at any meeting. And whereas desire of the governing body to comply with the provision of this act, same time conduct its business in an orderly and expeditious manner. Now therefore be resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Maplewood does hereby prohibit, except as set forth in the formal agenda, active participation in the deliberations of the governing body by the public, and except as otherwise described by law, does limit the public to the observations of the actions and discussions of the governing body, all its regular and special meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Cripe?
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Mr. McGehee?
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Please join us in salute to our flag. Pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and
and
to
to the
the
republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
Nation.
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all. Absolutely. So welcome to our last Township Committee meeting for the year, everyone. We have a fulsome agenda tonight, and we're on tight scheduling, so we want to get right to it. We're going to start this evening with a very special proclamation of appreciation for committee member Frank McGehee, former mayor Frank McGehee, our dear friend and colleague Frank McGehee. We're going to get to that first off, and that's going to lead us into our first public comment of two, the first one being for agenda items only. And then we have several ordinances on final passage, and that will move us into the second and last hearing of the CDBG, public hearing for the ADA compliant jitney, compliant bus for our seniors. Then we have no reports from departments again. I don't know why we keep sticking this on the agenda. We'll change that in the new year. Administrative reports, we'll start with interim administrator Schuster, followed by assistant administrator Barnett, followed by township attorney Desiderio, ending with township clerk Fritzen. Reports from elected officials. This evening's lineup begins with committee member Cripe, followed by deputy mayor DeLuca, followed by committee member Adams. I will go after that, and committee member McGehee will go last. I usually tend to go last, but committee member McGehee requested to go last this evening so that he can make his departing remarks, and we honor that and thank him for that. Discussion items. We have several discussion items this time. We will be hopefully voting on and officially moving forward our new regulations for streeteries and parklets, otherwise known as the outdoor dining. Committee member McGehee will be leading us in another issue regarding teacher parking at MMS. Deputy Mayor DeLuca will walk us through recommendations and updates on recent traffic and pedestrian safety changes on important intersections. He will also give us an update, a demographic report rather, on our boards and committees as we head into another year of exceptional volunteer service by our residents. I will lead our discussion or follow-up on the conditional license approval, manufacturer license approval for Ogie's brands. They have received their license from the state, and we want to move forward our local approval so that they can comply with the state and move forward on their end. And then we will end our discussion about Yale Corner, an affordable homeownership project there possibly happening. More on that during discussion. Stick around. We have a good consent agenda. I want to note that 13I, resolution number 372-22. There's a bit of an error there, just a minor typo. Resolution number 372-22 is about Chapter 159 NJ BPU Community Energy Planning Grant and not the opioid settlement fund. This is what happens when our agenda comes out very, very late, and I urge colleagues and staff and all to, in the new year, as we take a little bit of a break next week and freshen up, to get things over to our township clerk, our attorneys, for the agenda early enough so that we can catch things like this and not give the public late notice of their public agenda. Public comment number 2, any subject matter, and then we will adjourn. And we got to get it done by 9:30 tonight, folks, because after our public service here commitment, we will go into our Democratic caucus. All right, so with that, let's start with our resolution of appreciation. But before we do that, please join me in honoring a few of our dearly departed residents whom we've lost recently with a moment of silence. We are honoring Antoinette De Palma, the mother of our dear Annette De Palma, our Director of Community Development and our Township Prosecutor. We are honoring Shirley Mazzone, the mother of our amazing Beverly Mazzone, the technical assistant to the building department, who works directly and closely with Director De Palma. And we are also honoring Rosemary Howlett, the Howlett family, longtime family in Maplewood. Rosemary, we lost Rosemary over the last week, and our hearts go out to her daughter, Amy Howlett, who is currently the president of the MVA board, and to the rest of the family, including Joan Howlett. So please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. May they rest in peace. Our thoughts and prayers to their families. May their memories bring strength and peace. Okay, so let's appreciate and honor Frank McGehee, who is with us tonight for his very last Township Committee meeting. Maybe not forever, you never know, right? But we wanted to prepare a proper send-off, and I know we probably have members of the public who wish to comment and honor Frank and salute him appropriately as well. So we put together a resolution of appreciation, and I'd like to read it and allow Frank to remark and anyone else who wishes to do so afterward. So Frank McGehee was elected to the Township Committee in 2016 and has decided to step down to allow for a new member of our community to have the opportunity to step up and serve. For 2 terms, which is 6 years, he served 2 years as deputy mayor and an additional 2 as mayor of Maplewood. Frank has etched his name into the history of Maplewood. There's absolutely no doubt about that. His contributions to making Maplewood safe, to not only commute to and from work, but also to escape the enclosed spaces of a vehicle and reaffirm a sense of community here in Maplewood, laid the foundation for all he would be called to do during his time on the Township Committee. He started his first term as mayor at the onset of COVID-19 during the pandemic in 2020. It was a very quick reminder to him and to all of us of why public service is not only a high honor, but a great responsibility. Frank, you probably are going to mention it in your remarks. I don't know how many reports you gave and public releases as we were monitoring the pandemic in those early days. It was countless, and you were constantly communicating and constantly holding us all together. Following in the footsteps of some of the most notable members in public service in Maplewood's history, including Milo Borden, who guided Maplewood through the Great Depression, our current deputy mayor and former mayor, Vic DeLuca, who saw us through the tragedy of 9/11, and many other mayors throughout Maplewood's history, Frank has been a rock for a community in mourning. Alongside being a source of empathy, Frank has also been a source of strength by using his 20+ years of leadership experience in the corporate world to be what a close-knit community needed here in Maplewood. With experience showing Frank that each person's weakness is compensated by the strength of their neighbor, he sought a coalition that ranged from the governing body of our shared school district with South Orange to those the age of his daughter, Madison. Because for Frank, he saw the opportunity to craft and strengthen relationships the pandemic made clear were fragmented. Through his wife, Marie, and daughter, Madison, being a reminder that no matter where educated, where someone has worked or rubbed shoulders with, that doesn't make them any less your neighbor whom you can call upon. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Dean Daffis, Mayor of the Township of Maplewood, and the Maplewood Township Committee hereby celebrate our neighbor, our friend, our former mayor, Frank McGehee, for not only what he brought to the Township Committee, what he did during his terms, but also all the township will continue to benefit from him due to his service, and he and his family continuing to be members of our community. Frank, in a further personal note, I have to tell you, serving with you has been dynamic and incredibly rewarding. We've pushed each other, and you and I have transformed the landscape of the Township Committee. You and I were the new voices, the young voices, the different voices that just brazed through the door and said that we wanted an opportunity to serve, and we had something valuable to offer. I remember meeting you by chance through my husband, George, on the train, as most of us during the time pre-COVID when we commuted every day used to meet, and learning that you were running for office and that you were looking for some help. And I rolled up my sleeves along with our dear friend and fellow neighbor, Aaron Scherzer, who's with us tonight, to help you win your election, to manage your campaign. And that started a friendship that will last for life. It's been an honor, it's been a privilege, and we wish you all the very best, you and your family, going forward. Congratulations and thank you. Do you wish to say something now or later or a little bit of both?
I just want to say thank you. Your words are just beautiful. And as you were speaking, I was remembering so many things. The memories are still very fond, be it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I appreciate that. And I'll say more later on this evening, but it's been a lot. It's been a lot. And, many of you have been there every step of the way. And I appreciate that with the greatest of gratitude. So thank you, Dean, and thank you, all my colleagues and friends.
Thank you, Frank. Any other members of the Township Committee wish to remark at this moment? Go ahead, Jermaine.
I just wanted to say a huge thank you for keeping it real, Mayor. You have been someone that other women and people of color in this community have looked up to with pride. You did us right. So thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for getting us through COVID, my friend. We wouldn't have been able to do this without you. And the communication style and the just the grace that you showed, even when we didn't get along and agree on things in the town, there was just something about the way you handled the situations that made a lot of us walk away as like, you know what? It didn't work out for everyone the way they wanted it, but doggone it, we're still united. So thank you for your leadership in those places and those rough spots when COVID brought some of the worst out in some of us. So thank you for that. Thank you for letting us take away some of the time from the beautiful women you have in your life. Marie and Madison get you back. And not just for when you got to go into the city or do something on the side, they get you full time. But I will say that as you will be missed here on this township committee, I wasn't joking when I said if you are looking to go higher, Essex County, New York State, give me a call. I'm in the trenches with you, my friend, because I believe that you should be doing a lot more for this community and beyond. And we're lucky to have you here in Maplewood for as long as we've had you. So thank you for your service. I'm still going to call and send texts if I have questions. Thank you for always picking up the phone. And Godspeed on your next journey, my friend.
Thank you, Jermaine. Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Committee member Cripe. Anyone else? Deputy Mayor DeLuca.
So Frank, thank you very much. It's kind of interesting because we're talking a lot about the transfer of power in government and, the transfer of government. And when we moved from me being a longtime mayor and you coming on, you really stepped up and were a terrific mayor. And you got hit in your first quarter with something that has never happened to any of us who served in this role. And that was that pandemic, COVID. You led us, you communicated with the community. You were the right person for that disaster. And everybody finds their time in life. And some of it is luck and some of it is planned. You certainly didn't plan this, and you probably would have rewound the film if you could have, but you stepped up and you did what you had to do. And there were a couple other things too. I've been working with you on the fire department merger, and this was one of those things where when we transferred from me to you, you kept going and you made it even better, and you brought it to the finish line. And we now have a merged fire department, something that we dreamed about for a long time, that you continued that progress, fought hard in Trenton, stood toe to toe with the state union folks, and you made it happen working with our colleagues in South Orange. And there was one other thing that you did that people probably forgot about, and that was the census. You understood the importance of everyone in our town being counted. And you worked hard with the folks in the county. You mobilized us locally. We even had a parade. We did all kinds of stuff. And your leadership was there. You brought us to that point. And I want to thank you for that. And the last thing I just want to say is you really, and I think this is very important, you really opened up lines of communication with the school district. It was very, very important to do. Before you were mayor, you certainly did that with the basketball nights and all that, the open gym, and you started seeing the value of having a closer relationship between the municipality and the school. And in your meetings and bringing back the interagency meeting with South Orange and the school district in Maplewood was very important, and hopefully that will continue going forward. So I just want to say thank you. It's been a great time serving with you for 6 years. We've had a lot of laughs. I remember a couple of times you gave me hell in the beginning when you first started serving. As Dean said, you were really ready to go, and you made it clear to me that you were going to go. But we worked out well, and I just think that, as Dean said, you will be remembered as one of the impactful mayors in Maplewood. So thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you for those wonderful words. And yeah, what a journey we had. And as you were speaking, I was also thinking of a couple of fun times that we had, in our personal times that were fun, and working and collaborating together on some of those key things were so critical to the town. So thank you for being a colleague, a friend, and being there.
I was going to wait till my report, but I guess I'll do it now, right?
Sure.
Well, Jermaine started it. So, Frank, the thing I'll remember most about you is the energy and enthusiasm, especially like in parades when I'm trying to walk in like a skirt and the most uncomfortable shoes, and you're like zigzagging to each side, and I'm like, yeah, age and heels can't make that happen. So, but you brought that enthusiasm to pretty much everything you did, and mostly what I see is your dedication. We had our rough patches because we're both strong-minded and care deeply about what we're doing. And I think, that's a natural thing that's going to happen. But I won't repeat what my colleague said. I was going to mention the fire department merger and what you did during COVID, but all that and how much we appreciated it. And I'm sorry you didn't get to sit up on the dais as much as you probably had hoped, because it's a little nicer than our bedrooms and stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if I asked you this morning if Marie and Madison are going to be like glad to have you home more or not. We were joking about that. It'll have both ways. She's a teenager, so yeah, she'll like you sometimes. But thank you for your service to this wonderful community we call home. And I'm sure you aren't going anywhere anytime soon. So here, raise a glass. We'll raise a glass soon.
Yes.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you very much. And, you have been really a pillar in our community for environmental change. We all have, things that we'll be remembered by and who we are. And I salute you for your efforts as recent as this morning, as we were handing out flyers below freezing to let our community know that, we're always looking for continuous improvement. And this new age of recycling that we put together, and you did so much of the work on it, is for the greater good and a value add to our community. So thanks, Nancy.
We'll meet you for a drink on Martha's Vineyard.
There you go.
This is great. Any other remarks before we open it up to the public? Okay, let's open it up to the public. This is our first public comment session for agenda items only at this moment. You will have another opportunity towards the end of our agenda for another public comment. And this evening, we do not have Mr. Waltz with us, but we do have our Assistant Administrator, Bailey Barnett. Ms. Barnett will be handling public comment. Ms. Barnett, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. We've now come to the public comment section of the meeting. This section is for agenda items only, as the Mayor said. If you wish to speak, please use the raise your hand function and you'll be converted to a panelist and given 3 minutes to speak. First up, we have Sheena Collum.
Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, yes.
All right, great. It's great to see everybody. I've got two of my favorite folks here, Frank and Democracy. I am here because Mr. Lembrick sent me the message, Frank's last meeting. I was like, I am on it right away. So I am here. Frank, it started Puerto Rico, right? Supermarket sweep down in Stop and Shop, raising thousands of dollars, right? Oh my God, Frank, you have been so much fun. My energy is on like level 10 because I don't want to be sad. I want to be energetic. The pandemic, man, to have a partner like you for 2 years, every call in the morning, every hang up. I don't know if the community will ever understand how important it was for us as mayors to have each other to lean on and to get advice and guidance, and at times being so emotional with what was happening, is to just have that point of contact every morning and to be able to end on a positive note of that we're getting through it. I will note that your golf game still sucks and I am the assassin, right? And I remember getting Madison her first golf set as a young woman, learning how to play. We talked a lot about Marie and Madison, but let's not forget Sunshine, right? Sunshine is a main player in the McGeehee family. As all of you know, Frank's either riding his bike or he's walking or he's trying to poach a ride off of one of us. So it was great being your chauffeur around the two towns and getting you places. All the big ones were hit, right? Fire merger. But one thing that you probably noticed once you took over as mayor is that there were so many more pictures of South Orange and Maplewood. It began, it started with Vic and then to you, is that people really started to see the full brand of Soma and Mapso and how closely we work together, whether it's currently the recycling, great job, Nancy, also. And, even down to the way that we were addressing policing, which was also very stressful, our fire merger, and then public celebrations together, right? Unveiling Juneteenth, and all those items were so special. I could go on and on, but I know that Bailey's gonna be like, President Collum, yeah, you're getting close to your 3 minutes. But I just want to say, Frank, from the bottom of my heart, this is not even close to a goodbye, because you become such an important person in my life as a friend, as somebody I respect, as a mentor, as somebody I laugh so hard with. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going to burst. You're everything great in a public servant. I value everything you've done for Maplewood and by extension, South Orange. You are a true gentleman and you inspire people in everything that you do. I love you so much, Frank. And as you always say, we're going to send off with cha-cha.
Love you, Sheena. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, President Cullum. Keeping it real.
It's awesome.
Next up, we have former committeeman Greg Limbrick.
Hi, remember me? So tonight's my, Greg Lembrick, 50 Sagamore Road, Maplewood. Tonight's my first TC meeting since January 1 of this year. And looking at the agenda, I briefly felt the terror I get when I have a nightmare that I'm back in school and I have to take a test I didn't study for. But fortunately, I'm here tonight to speak only on an agenda item that I am very prepared to address, and that's to join with the township in expressing my appreciation of Frank McGeehee and thanking him for his service. It was truly my pleasure to serve with Frank for 5 of his 6 years on the TC, as well as this year on the SEFD Management Committee. And whether as a committee member, deputy mayor, or mayor, the 3 qualities that have always shined through during Frank's 6 years on this township committee are service, leadership, and compassion. Frank's unwavering devotion to serving this community truly shined through when Maplewood was faced with some of its steepest tests. While so much of politics today on the national level, on the state level, is focused on tearing people down and spreading fear, Frank really builds people up and always instills hope. Frank steps up to serve and to lead, and he does so with a genuine caring for our community and the people in it, and that really shines through. And while local elected office is often a thankless job, Frank has a seemingly boundless energy and a spirit for it. And when Frank sees a problem, he's always rolled up his sleeves and contributes to a solution. He walks his talk and lives his values. He's devoted to volunteering with the local food bank. He works publicly and behind the scenes to tackle food insecurity in our community. He's always a champion for our youth. And when the solution doesn't exist, he works to create one. A hallmark of Frank's service has been that he consistently has used his platform, particularly as mayor, but throughout his time on the committee, to shine a light on the underserved in our community. And he's used his power and his persuasive and very articulate voice to give a voice to those who would otherwise in our community go unheard. He's led by being a consensus builder. He's consistently rallied and united our community, helping to bridge disagreements and divisions. As mayor, as many of us have mentioned before, he helped lead Maplewood through the darkest days of the COVID-19 pandemic, providing calm and decisive leadership that was backed by science, unlike some leaders around the country. And he really helped our town come through the scariest time of my life. He gave the public regular updates on email, YouTube. When people were stuck at home and didn't know what was happening and whether and how we would come out on the other side, Mayor Frank was a source of comfort, confidence, compassion, and reliable information. His messages were all about making sure that our community never lost hope, and we never did. Most of all, Frank brought compassion to his service. During the height of the pandemic, while managing family and professional responsibilities, as well as overseeing the government of a town of 25,000 people with fiscal challenges presented by declining revenues, I know that he privately took the time to comfort families of residents who passed away and supported them in their grief. I also know that he took the time to personally reach out to those who were struggling, bringing comfort and letting them know that their community cared, even at a time when we were compelled to remain at a distance physically. Frank has truly demonstrated his love for Maplewood through his service. Love of community calls us to prioritize service, but love of family and friends also calls us to step away and change our roles when it's time. Frank, you and your family truly deserve the break you'll be taking, but I know that you're going to continue to find many ways to serve with purpose in our community. And I wish for you all of the happiness that I've found in my now copious free time since leaving this committee. Frank, thank you for your service to our town, and even more for your friendship to my family and to me. Both have meant more than I can ever express. I wish all of you a happy holiday season and all the best as we head into 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lembrick.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Aaron Scherzer.
Hello, everybody. So I'm here and I'm gonna tell myself I'm not gonna cry to say a big thank you to Frank. Frank and I go way back than any of you, maybe with exception of Greg. We first met standing outside of Prospect Church. We were campaigning in that primary of 2015 for Nancy and Greg. And just so happened, we were both two volunteers at the same spot. And from there, it became my firsthand look at one of the best public servants that I've ever had the opportunity to meet. When Frank ran for office, it was at the most difficult time in our country's history. We didn't think Trump would win, and he did. But on that night that he did, our one ray of hope was that Frank won. And through his service, he embraced difficult conversations, difficult times in our community, but always with balance, always with optimism, always with promise. I know when you became mayor, and I was just looking back at photos of you and Madison and Marie as you put your hand on the Bible and took that oath. I know when that happened, you weren't expecting the pandemic to be, but there was a higher calling, and you were the leader that our community needed at that time. And for 2 years, in a difficult time, not just the pandemic, we can talk about the murder of George Floyd and how that impacted our community. We can't lose sight of your critical work to diversify and reform our police department, to make it the top police department within our state. But you were there. You embraced every difficult conversation. Even when people disagreed with you, you found the common ground and you listened. I hope all of our leaders can continue to follow Frank's example. Frank, I wish you all the best. I hope this is not you're just taking a pause and you're going to do something fabulous next. But thank you for your friendship, your service, and I hope you, Marie, and Madison have something fun planned once you're out of office. Thank you.
Aaron, thank you so much. You know I love you. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you.
Next up, we have Claire Roberts.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Okay, I don't know if you can see me yet or not, but anyway, I just wanted to say that I think Maplewood has been extremely lucky to have Frank McGehee as such a fantastic public servant. I feel like he has really enriched our community beyond measure, and we will miss him, but we will wish him all the best and maybe hope to see him in another position sometime soon.
Claire, thank you so much. Thank you for your kind words.
I see no more hands, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. I'm sure we will have more Frank love in a little bit. But now let's move on with our agenda, the rest of our agenda. And we have the first of several ordinances on final passage. Fritzen.
Yes, Mayor, item 7 and 7 ordinances on final. Ordinance number 3076-22 is an ordinance to establish the fees for the Jitney Pass, commuter parking, the Jitney Parking Combination Pass, and Jitney Daily Fee beginning in 2023. This ordinance will increase the Jitney Pass fee from $125 to $150, the commuter parking fee from $275 to $330, the Jitney Parking Combination fee from $300 to $360, and the daily user fee from $2 to $3 per ride beginning in the year 2023.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Being that this is on final passage, we're going to open it up to the public for any remarks or comments. Ms. Barnett, do we have any members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance?
I see no hands, Mayor.
Okay, no hands at this time. We'll close the public hearing. And are there members of the Township Committee who wish to comment on this? All right, seeing none, I will move it. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I'll second the motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Luca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes.
Okay, also on final, Mayor, it's ordinance number 3077-22 is an ordinance to amend chapter 271 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Zoning and Development Regulations. This ordinance will, with regard to zoning districts R17, R15, R14, amend the facade length adjacent to side lot lines from 30 feet to 40 feet in each zone.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. At this point, we open it up to the public for any comments or remarks about this ordinance. Ms. Barnett, are there any members of the public who wish to comment?
I see none, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. Are there members of the Township Committee who wish to comment or remark about this? I do have some updated information. So the planning board did review this and they wish to have more time. They did not make a decision as to whether or not it's in support of, in keeping rather with the current master plan or against it. There was some discussion. Some of it relayed to mostly lot coverage. This is not about lot coverage. And there was a very good question about why one of our residential zones, namely the R24 zone, was not included. This afternoon, I reached out to Community Development Director DePalma, who conferred with our Buildings and Zoning Officer, Mr. Len Mendola, who confirmed that that was merely an oversight, that there was no substantive reason for leaving out that residential zone. So I want to ask Mr. Desiderio, is that a major substantive change, Mr. Desiderio, that requires us to not be able to take further action at this moment? What do you advise?
Because this being the last meeting of this township committee, you have two choices. You can pass the ordinance. The zoning board's comments are anecdotal. That's not why it's referred to the zoning board, excuse me, to the planning board. They're supposed to pass simply on whether it is or it is not consistent with the master plan. Their comments, like I said, are merely anecdotal. So you either can pass it as it is, or you have to, excuse me, vote it down and then reintroduce it next year.
Mr. Desiderio, thank you for that. My question relates to the edit that's required to include the R24 zone.
Yeah, but because the answer is it's substantive, which would require republication. Okay, and we can't do it now because of this being the last meeting of the year.
So what do you advise that we do?
Pass it, and then we can do it, and then we can introduce a new ordinance next year. I mean, there was a reason we wanted to do this. Apparently, there are some applications that are affected by it. My assumption is there are not many R24 applications, but I would suggest that you pass it now, and then if Mr. Mendola suggests we do a new ordinance, then we'll do a new ordinance next year.
Terrific. Thank you for your guidance, sir. Okay, can we get a motion?
Could I just make a comment first?
Oh, certainly. Apologies.
My concern only is that if we're going to pass it and then have to amend it after the new year anyway, might it just be prudent to allow the planning board that expressed interest in discussing it a little further at our meeting? It was, for such a small topic, it was a pretty fulsome discussion with people, members of the planning board, wanting some time to give some more thoughts on it before the township committee considered it for passage. However, I mean, I know we don't need their approval, if you will, quote unquote. They were possibly going past the compliance with the master plan, which is normally all they need to look at it for, but they had some concerns. I don't know that those concerns were, I mean, Mayor, you were there. We were talking about it. It wasn't necessarily because the main concern was McMansions, which, you know, we already dealt with my first year or two on the township committee by changing the lot coverage and the building coverage, especially in the rear yard. And the setbacks don't change. So I don't know that this would be that substantive with regard to McMansions. And I think that was sort of the consensus, but ultimately they did want some more time. So I guess my question is, if we're going to have to amend it anyway to include the other zone, maybe we just introduce it at the first meeting in January and let the planning board opine on it again for a minute, give their comments back, and then have a fully correct ordinance at the end of January.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Adams. Appreciate that additional context. Do we have a motion?
Mayor, I just wanted, I would support that because I think Mr. Desiderio is right. We can pass this, but I think the planning board did ask for a little more time to talk about it. And so reintroducing it on the 3rd of January with the inclusion of the 2-4, I think respects the planning board and that process. So, I'm scheduled to move this. Do you want to move it, Ms. Adams, so that we can vote it up or down?
I think you were supposed to move it because
I know, I'm deferring to you. Do you want to do it?
I'd have to pull up that little yellow card. Go ahead.
I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a passed ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I will second Mr. DeLuca's motion.
Ms. Adams,
No.
Ms. Crichton,
No,
Mr. DeLuca,
No,
Mr. McGehee,
No.
Mayor Daffis.
Nope.
fails on final passage, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen.
All right, moving on, next ordinance on final, ordinance number 3078-22 is an ordinance to amend chapter 127 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Fire Prevention. This ordinance will increase the fee for on-site inspections of non-life hazard use buildings, businesses, and occupancies for the M-2 code from $60 to $120.
This being on final passage, we open it up to the public for their input. Are there members of the public, Ms. Barnett, who wish to comment on this ordinance?
I see no one, Mayor.
I see no one either. We will close the public hearing. Are there members of the Township Committee who may wish to remark on this?
I just wanted to clarify that this is really just fixing an error in the past ordinance that was raised at Code Committee by our fire code official, Bob Conklin.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I'll move this. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a past ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second that motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGeehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffus.
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Ordinance number 3079-22.
Yes, Mayor, also on final, ordinance number 3079-22 is an ordinance to amend chapter 319 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Nuisances Public Health. This ordinance will add language making it illegal for the harboring of and accessibility of feed to mice and rodents.
At this point, we open this up to public hearing. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance, Ms. Barnett?
I see none.
There are no public comments about the harboring of feed to mice and rodents. Okay, no public comment.
I thought
Closing
it said fees.
feed.
But yeah, fees.
Yeah.
We're gonna charge the mice and rodents.
Any members of the Township Committee interested in remarking on this further? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a past ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
Seconded.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Cripe, Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGeehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffus.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen, and Ms. Cripe also voted yes, but she was
Yeah.
muted. Yep.
Next on final, as well, Mayor, it's ordinance number 3080-22. An ordinance to amend chapter 209 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Residential Rental Properties. This ordinance will add a requirement that landlords provide hot water to tenants at certain times.
Public comment. Any members of the public who wish to comment on this, Ms. Barnett?
I see no one, Mayor.
Township Committee? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a past ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I will second your motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Bright,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
McGeehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffus.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Two more to go.
Yes, Mayor, we're now to 7F, which is an ordinance on final passage, ordinance number 3081-22. Is an ordinance to amend chapter 305 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled Food Establishments. This ordinance will adopt New Jersey Administrative Code 824 regarding sanitation and retail food establishments and food and vending machines.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Ms. Barnett, are there members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance before its final passage?
I see none, Mayor.
Okay, We'll close the public hearing. Members of the Township Committee? Okay, can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a pass ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second that motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. One final one on passage.
Yes, Mayor, the final of the 7 on final passage, ordinance number 3082-22 is an ordinance to amend chapter 276 of the Code of the Township of Maplewood entitled General Provisions Board of Health. This ordinance will revise certain language with regard to the incorporation of sections of the Maplewood Code into the Code of the Board of Health.
Public hearing. Any members of the public who wish to comment on this ordinance, Ms. Barnett?
I see no one, Mayor.
Members of the Township Committee? Okay, Mr. McGee, can we get a motion?
Yes, Mayor. I move this ordinance be adopted as a whole and the clerk be directed to publish the same as a pass ordinance in the Maplewood South Orange News Record according to law.
I second that motion.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. Well done. 7 ordinances on final passage this evening, and thank you for moving most of them, Mr. McGee. We are making you work your last TC meeting. This brings us to our second public hearing regarding our community block grant application for an ADA compliant bus for our seniors. I'm going to turn it over to our community services, our community development director, Ms. DePalma. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, members of the Township Committee. This is the second and last required hearing for an application to the Community Development Block Grant administered by Essex County for a 14-passenger barrier-free electric bus that we will be using for seniors. The cost of this vehicle at this time is around $263,000. We are going to be applying for about $285,000, anticipating an increase in the cost for both the base model and the barrier-free and electric edition. So we're going to apply for probably $285,000. The vehicle that we're looking at has a 14-passenger capacity with the capability of flipping down 2 of the seats and having 2 wheelchairs be able to be transported at the same time. So this is considered to be a direct service application, subject to, some of the points that I made at the first hearing. And it is essentially a new service because we don't have this kind of vehicle available for seniors or people who are mobility challenged. And those are the 2 groups that this kind of application is directly geared toward. And the bus does have a 100-mile travel range on its battery capacity.
Terrific. Thank you for the additional information, Mr. Palma. 14 passengers sounds about right, not 77 or whatever it was last time. And I'm heartened by the cost. It's not as much as we thought it was going to be. And I sure hope we get this because we definitely need it. So let's open it up to members of the public for their comments and input. Ms. Barnett.
Yes, we've now come to the public comment section of this hearing. If you wish to speak, please raise your hand and you'll be converted to a panelist. First up, we have Joan Crystal.
Thank you very much. The 14 seats sounds just about right. This will really be enabling us to use it in lieu of the current van that we're using, which is next to impossible for even our mobile seniors to board it. And I'm very happy to hear that the town is moving in that direction. It's also comparable to the type of vehicle that's being used by other towns in our region to transport seniors. We can certainly use the existing jitneys for our trips, which tend to have the more mobile seniors on them. And I think this is an excellent decision, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Crystal. We couldn't have done this without you. And as you said, we really hope that we can make this happen. Thank you for your advocacy and joining us tonight. Other members of the public who wish to remark?
I see no more hands.
There is no reason for anyone else to remark. We heard from Ms. Crystal. She's the greatest advocate for our seniors, right? Done. Check. All right. So with that, we're going to close the public hearing. And I move that we adopt resolution 368-22, approving an application for funding from the 2023 Essex County Community Development Block Grant Program for an electric powered ADA compliant bus for our seniors.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Wright,
Absolutely.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Downs.
Yes, absolutely as well. Okay, we're moving along to administrative reports, and we welcome interim administrator Schuster.
Thank you, Mayor. My report this evening consists of the following, not to sound like a broken record, but I've been spending a lot of time on budget, as to be expected. We have almost completed our process working with the subcommittees for the initial pass and receive feedback on the budget. We are continuing to refine it by meeting with department heads. As I believe I told you all, my process tends to be inclusive and iterative as we go through everything. And I don't like to make any changes without first consulting with the department head and understanding what those changes, what the impact of those changes will be. That being said, I have started making some recommended adjustments to the budget as we go through that process. And once everything is put together, I'll go ahead and distribute a draft budget. Other than that, though, we are on the schedule that I distributed and shooting for public hearings, at least initial public hearings at the end of January. Animal control is also something I've been working closely with the health department. I believe the mayor will have something to say on that a little bit later. Health insurance for the configuration we have with the state right now is obviously a huge concern because the proposed increase is rather large. I believe at 23%. We have received through the excellent work of Ms. Barnett our claims history, and we're preparing to go ahead and look at other options. This would not necessarily be for 2023, but it's the beginning of a process to look at what other options we have other than the state program. We do have, just for everyone out there, keep your eyes open. We do have a storm coming on Friday. We'll be looking to put out more communications on that as the OEM team meets, and we'll advise everyone as necessary. Also want to wish a happy holidays to everyone. Town Hall will be closed starting at 1 p.m. on Friday through all of Monday. So keep that in mind if you need to do business with the township. And lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and throw in my thanks and appreciation for everything Mr. McGee has done. This is my my first time in Maplewood was under then Mayor McGee, and it was during the pandemic. It was a very interesting time where things were being thrown at us left and right that none of us had ever dealt with before. And Frank was just a calm and steady hand throughout the whole event, my whole time there. And I just want to say that I do appreciate everything that he has given to the township. I learned quite a bit working with him, and I wish him well with all the free time he's about to have, and just appreciate everything he's done for the citizens of Maplewood. That is my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Schuster. Are there any questions for Mr. Schuster? For my colleagues, seeing, oh, Mr. McGee?
I just want to say thank you to Mr. Schuster. We, as he mentioned, we have had the opportunity to dance twice now, and you're a great dance partner, my friend.
Thank you.
Well said, Frank. I love that. Although I thought I was your dance partner, but whatever. You have several partners. What can I say? You're popular. Okay. Assistant Administrator Barnett.
Thank you, Mayor. So in addition to working on some of the initiatives that Interim Administrator Schuster just mentioned, such as budget, animal control, and the health insurance, there are a couple of other things I wanted to touch on. One is the compost pilot, which I know will be coming up in discussion later, so I will leave that until that point in our meeting. A quick update on our Division of Arts and Culture manager search. We interviewed finalists last week and are hoping to have a signed offer letter in hand by the end of this week, if not sometime next week, and get that person started right off beginning of the year. As far as other hiring goes, I think that's actually the only hiring note I had for this time. Recycling press, I think some members of the committee might touch on this during their updates as well, but I'm sure many residents noted folks handing out flyers this morning. We also have an additional postcard that's going out across Soma, including similar information to the first time around, but also including a URL for the website. So thank you to all the residents who reached out and recommended that to make it more accessible. That's a change that we're implementing to make sure folks have an easier time accessing it this go around. And I'll also drop that link in the chat once I'm done with my report. In order to help with all township messaging, but especially as the changes with the recycling roll out, we are working on implementing SMS messaging through the township. So that'll be text notifications with sometimes links to longer information, sometimes something as simple as a reminder as to whether it's a commingled or a fiber recycling week. And we're going to be sharing some more information on how to sign up once we get our official number, but that rollout is underway and I should be receiving our formal phone number for the township within the next couple of days. And then I wanted to bring everyone's attention to a couple of resolutions that are on the consent agenda, just to kind of clarify the relationship between the two. So resolution 37222 is simply us accepting a community energy grant from the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities for $10,000. So this was awarded as the result of work performed by Deputy Mayor DeLuca and several of our Sustainable Maplewood volunteers. So thank you to all of them for that hard work and getting us those funds. Resolution 37322 ties in directly to that, in that it is awarding a contract to the Rutgers Center for Green Building, using the funds from that grant to assist the township in developing a community energy plan. So that's where part of those grant funds will be allocated. So the Center for Green Building will support the township by suggesting different innovative approaches that they are aware of in the field and leveraging their existing work products that they've completed in their role as clean energy evaluator for the state of New Jersey. So they're going to be a great asset to us on that project, and we're hoping to get that awarded and get working with them. I want to note that this contract is being awarded via resolution with the understanding that the work qualifies as an extraordinary unspecifiable service. So this basically just means it's niche enough work that it can't be narrowed down to bid specifications. And the primary reason for that is that a good portion of the work that they're doing is assisting with applying an equity lens to our energy plan, and then also assisting in the administration of public hearings and stakeholder interactions. And those are things that can't really be qualified or nailed down to a specific target number. And so that's what allows it to qualify for award by this method. But I just wanted to, again, give you all a heads up as to how those two are tied and a clarification as to how that award process is a little bit different this time around. And then last but not least, I'd like to also extend Congratulations on his years of service and a thank you to committeeman Mayor Frank McGeehee. It's been a pleasure working with you. As so many people have said, there's a lot you've accomplished in your time with the township, and you've done it with such energy and humility and humor, and you're really just such an enjoyable person to work with. I wish you the best in whatever is next. And really just congratulations on such an outstanding term of service and on some well-deserved rest.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. I appreciate it. It's been awesome working with you as well. So, but I'll say that again later.
Ms. Barnett, thank you for your fulsome report. You have a lot of things you are juggling and you're doing them all so well. Thank you. I hope you get a little bit of rest next week before we start all over again in the new year. Next, we have Mr. Desiderio for an update in legal matters. Any updates, Mr. Desiderio?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, trying to get a word in to get a question to Ms. Barnett.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Ms. Barnett, can you clarify to the public about the new SMS system versus the Nixle and how to sign up for that? I don't want people to think that if they're signed up for Nixle alerts, that automatically makes them signed up for the SMS, because it's not. So if you could clarify that and get that information out and how that's going to be, because that's another thing we're going to have to, besides the recycling stuff, we're going to have to get the information to people how to sign up for this extra alert system.
Yes, thank you. And that's a good clarification. And the key difference will be that the Nixle is going to be allocated specifically for public safety alerts. So that includes basically any of the alerts that you're receiving through it now. There will be some messages about recycling as that pertains to public health and safety as we do the rollout, just to make sure as many people are getting those reminders as possible. But the existing sign up on the website is for Nixle. And then whenever the portal opens for us to begin accepting subscriptions for our new SMS system, there will be a press release with the new information linking to it, and also a designated space on the homepage that specifies it's for non-emergency alerts and notifications. So we'll be making sure to do a big push for that once again that's ready for signups. And we'll also be including in some of the recycling reminders that we're going to be sending out via Nixle, again, just to reach as many people as possible as we're all kind of getting our footing with that change. There will also be information on how to sign up for non-emergency alerts for those who are on Nixle, so that they'll be able to see, oh, this isn't where I'm going to be getting those messages, and also here's where I need to go. But yeah, that's a key difference. And we really want to make sure we maintain the separate channels for emergency and non-emergency communications, just not only so that people know what they're signing up for and what they're receiving, but also so that we can make sure that the Nixle remains clear and open for use from our public safety departments.
Right. And that's why I wanted you to clarify it, because I want people to understand that they're going to have to sign up for the other one. And we will be using Nixle for a while, and they roll out for the recycling, but they will have to sign up for the separate one, which could include anything from fiber or commingled this week or that, to township committee agendas, to, other news that's not emergency. So I think it's an important thing we're adding, and Mr. McGeehee and I worked on it with Ms. Burnett, and we're, glad that it's finally coming, because we think text messages are like probably better than email blasts, frankly. So thank you.
For sure. Any other questions for Ms. Barnett? Okay, we'll move over to legal. Mr. Desiderio.
A couple of things, Mayor. First, let me start out with offering my thanks and congratulations to Mr. McGeehee. At the sake of maybe embarrassing you a little bit, he used to be neighbors with my daughter and son-in-law, lived across the street on Carlton Court. And I have a recollection of my son-in-law, Tom, saying, yeah, this guy moved in and he really wants to get involved in politics. And he went to Notre Dame, and I'm not holding that against him. That's me, not Tom. And he says he's going to be the mayor at some point. I don't know if you remember that or we'll acknowledge it, Frank, but that's what Tom told me. And sure enough, he did. All right. And he did it on a fast track, and he did it well. And Frank, for all the reasons that everybody's already congratulated you and thank you, I also thank you. But I just wanted to add that everything you did with grace, you did with class, you did with courtesy, you did with thoughtfulness, and you did it always with a smile, always with a smile. It was my privilege to work for you. It was my privilege to work with you. Thank you for your service, and please be in Maplewood for a long time. All the best. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Roger. I mean, it could. Thank you, Roger. Appreciate your words. And yes, that's Tom did. That's a fact.
Mayor, I have one, and he's a man of his word. I have one other thing. Just reflecting on this ordinance that you voted down, I'm thinking maybe it's worthwhile, since the planning board's probably not going to really think or reflect on it till it comes before them again. And if there is a substantive issue that they think is there, as Ms. Adams said it, maybe it'd be worthwhile, rather than introducing a new ordinance and paying the money for publication and then sending them to them again, that we just send it to them and say, listen, would you look at this and give us your thoughts? And if you have some concerns, put those concerns in a memo and send them back to the township committee so they can make a determination as to whether they want to go forward or not. Just a thought on process.
As long as we don't have to go back to them after we introduce it again.
No, I'm suggesting don't introduce it again. Do
Right.
a memo to them first, let them do their analysis, tell them that we want to add the R24 zone, let them do their analysis and then come back to us. And then we can introduce it, and we don't run the risk of two publications and them not being in favor of it. That's just a thought.
Understood. And then we don't have to go back to the planning board after they send us a memo and we introduce it, right?
Effectively correct, yes. So if that's okay, I could send a memo to Ms. Lewis and ask them to do that at their next meeting. Mr. DeLuca, you were one who said it also, Mayor, you're okay with that? Okay, then I will do that. Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Desiderio? We'll move over to our clerk, our amazing clerk, Ms. Fritzen.
Okay, I'm gonna have no report. I know Mr. Desiderio's shocked, because I'm gonna spend all my time on Mayor McGee. So, Mayor, you have, definitely made it into the clerk's club, and that is, you are one of my favorite mayors. Basically, I remember our first meeting where we sat down and with administration, and we tried to teach the new township committee person some pointers. And I knew from day one at our meeting that you were going to be a lot of fun and a challenge. And I just want to say that, it's been wonderful. I have always said that I am the only department head who has the pleasure, and I'm going to say pleasure, of sharing a wall with the mayor and a doorway to a door that's always open. No other department head has that pleasure, or has to be on their toes 24/7, and especially when the mayor walks in. But just thinking about what I was going to say, we really had a great relationship, especially, when you were the mayor. I made some promises to you when you were mayor, and right off the bat, like, I don't know, a week before you were going to be the mayor, we were going to have this big reorganization meeting. I fractured my wrist, and it's my left wrist too. And guess what, folks? I'm left-handed. So the mayor has a clerk that, is going to try and continue to put together his first event as mayor, the reorg meeting. I keep telling him I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. We keep muddling through it. Then all of a sudden I have to have surgery. And to make a long story short, I can't be at the reorg meeting, but my right hand Roger covered for me. But I did watch the 3-hour reorganization meeting with the Yaz group and everybody else. And Mayor, that was probably it's the last one we've had, but it was fabulous with all those kids and the singing and the music. It was wonderful. So I just wanted to say we got off on a little bit of a rocky start there, but it continued. And then who would have thought, 2 months later, COVID hits, we're meeting remote, but all of that, you stepped up to the challenge. I mean, you knew what was expected. Personally, I look forward to your daily updates. They were just with such thought, compassion for people. I mean, those were the days that, 800 people were dying in New York every day, 700 in New Jersey, and you were a rock. And the staff, everybody else looked up to you. And I mean, I can really say that you led the Township of Maplewood and the employees. And I think you'll forever be in history for that, Mayor. I learned the buzzword when you were mayor, and I started using it, and I was like, oh, everything's robust. That's the mayor's word, okay? And you're laughing because we're all saying it now. I think Folsom might be Dean's word, but you were definitely robust. So I just want to say thank you as a township clerk who works so closely with the mayor. Even though we couldn't be on the other side of the wall all the time. And yes, I do remember running food to the back door to you because you wouldn't come in. But we were all in here working, but that's okay. I'm just going to say we had fun. Purdue, Notre Dame, right? Yankees, we text one another. But you and I did, I got a stern warning from you, one stern warning during COVID from you, because you never raised your voice, okay? But you did call me on a cell phone, heat of COVID, and you said to me, I want you to stay out of that squad house. And I want you not to be on that ambulance. And I was like, geez, that's serious. It's either my career or something I do as a volunteer. And I listened to you because I guess you wanted me around. So in closing, I will say that when we have the unveiling and take the plastic off the 25 chairs that I ordered, they're in the township committee room that we have never used. I will invite you over for a tryout. So I could go on and on, but I want to thank you, Mayor. You've been terrific to work with. I am so lucky to have had a chance to work with you.
Thank you, Liz. I love you, Liz. You're just the best, absolute best. And Gemma, our Gemma Sunshine Days. Yeah, those are good times. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you too.
Thank you, Ms. Fritzen. All very beautiful. All right, reports from elected officials. I'm giving you a time warning. We have about 40 minutes left, okay? We're going to start with committee member Craig.
I'll keep it short and sweet. This whole month has been my favorite time of year, primarily because it's cold, and y'all know how much I hate the sweat. And we've had so many celebrations. We've had openings of new businesses in town. We had amazing Springfield Avenue Christmas tree lighting with the choir. So thank you very much, Seth Borden Choir, as well as the Tuscan School community and the gentleman with the chainsaw who got it done with that ice block. It was really a great time. And I want to thank Maplewood, the citizens, as well as South Orange, the ones who came over, for being a part of these events. I'm aware that COVID has made it very difficult for people to be comfortable in public, again, after so long separated, but I'm starting to see more of you out there. So please continue to come out. And yeah, I'm going to dodge the cameras every chance I get, but I will definitely come and shake your hand and say hello and answer any questions I can. So please be out. Please continue to be out. We're in budget season, so I want to thank our CFO, Mr. Koloje, for joining the pool advisory committee as well as the rec advisory committee, and to walk us through the budget of what we've got coming up. A lot of great projects coming down the pike, as well as the new hire for our arts and culture manager. So stay tuned, Maplewood. There's a lot more stuff coming up, and please get involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Cripe. Deputy Mayor DeLuca.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to keep it short. I just want to we had our FEMA closeout meeting today which means that we are final with them. We have ended our relationship with FEMA. It now transfers to the state of New Jersey. And I'm happy to announce that of all the projects, we ended up with 16 projects that are going to be funded for the damage that was caused by Hurricane Ida. And we will receive, when all is said and done, about $3.2 million from FEMA. So I want to thank our team for putting a lot of work into it over the last year. But we're in a much better place, and this is going to help out with our budget going forward. That's it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeLuca. Committee Member Adams.
Okay. Well, guess what I get to talk about? Since I promised I would talk about this every time until we implement it. Recycling starts January 1, and that even though the official holiday for New Year's Day is Monday, January 2nd, recycling will begin to be picked up on January 2nd. So oops, I gotta go over here, and all these people are blocking me. Sorry, I gotta get rid of you all on the side of my screen. So this is the map, and it is what we did do, just in case there's some confusion, is take the map that residents are used to with regard to leaf pickup and spring rake out, all that kind of stuff. But it is divided into three. So the west side of town, basically, this whole these two sections, 5 and 6, our pickup is on Wednesday. This section is mostly Prospect and over here by Elmwood. Sections 3 and 4 are on Tuesdays, and Mondays is basically Hilton and part of College Hill. So you can see this map on the website. It's small on this flyer, but it is also, we have the calendar to remind you. So the first week, the week of January 2nd, will be what we're calling fibers. That's paper, and that's cardboard, anything other than everything else. So you'll have everything on Fiber Week is, you can see right here, office paper, newspapers, magazines, corrugated boxes, no grease or food. If half your box, your pizza box is greasy, rip that off, put it in the garbage, and you can recycle the other half that's clean. The commingled week is everything else: glass, metal, and plastics, 1, 2, and 5. And then there's a whole list on this flyer. This flyer can be accessed for printout on your own on our website. We also handed out about 350 of them this morning at the train station. So we just need you to get used to separating it out. I was really pleased to see Sheena Collins comments this morning and at last night's meeting of their governing body, and generally, like, we are a progressive community, right? And we care about the environment, and we're smart enough to know that we can handle separating 2 streams every other week. We can do it. And you don't necessarily need to buy a whole new bin. You can make it work in your household. It's way better than when I first moved here and I had 8 different, I was separating colored glass from clear glass, and like, so don't even get me started. So you can do these 2 streams. I know you can. It's okay. It's not hard. So, and as Ms. Barnett was talking about earlier, we will be continuing our communication. And if you put the wrong things in your recycling, it will be left at the curb. So if you're wondering why it's there, look at the flyer, look on the website, and you'll see why it didn't get picked up. We don't want to be contaminating what is being picked up because that costs us money. So we're doing this because it's better for the environment, and we're doing it to hopefully save money in the long run. But we need the community's help, and we need you to tell your neighbors, and we need you to do your best to, put out the right thing on the right week. So that's all I have. Thank you. Happy holidays to everybody in the community.
Thank you, Committee Member Adams. And as others have reported, we were out there this morning handing out these flyers to some of our commuters. And I was heartened to see that many of them were aware of it. So the message is getting out there, and we'll continue doing it for the rest of this week and all of next week as well. And I'll join you and others in social media accordingly. All right, my report. I'm going to start with animal control. We had a very positive and promising meeting with the Township of Bloomfield this morning. Who's we? Myself, our administrators, and South Orange, President Collins, joined by her team, and Mayor Venezia of Bloomfield and his team. We talked about what a temporary shared service would be with them. 3 to 6 months is what we're looking at, and we're exploring what that entails, what services they provide. They may not be able to provide all of the services that we currently have, turnkey services, if you will, through St. Hubert's. But we're going to see what we can do on a temporary basis while we continue looking into longer-term sustainable solutions. We will probably in the new year look at going out to an RFP. And we will continue talking to Bloomfield. And I believe that we will have more details about this at our January 3rd TC meeting. Remember, we have a reorg meeting, our annual reorg on the 1st, January 1st, and then we have a township committee meeting 2 days later on January 3rd. That will also be our first Board of Health meeting for 2023. Health Officer Davenport will report more details about animal control at that time, but we are moving forward. And as I said, that meeting with Bloomfield was very promising this morning. Unless there are any objections, I'm going to make a formal request by letter to New Jersey Transit about looking into how they can make our Maplewood train station ADA compatible. We have had a lot of conversations with NJT through the years. They never really went anywhere for a multitude of reasons. But in recent months, there seems to be at least a slightly ajar door in receiving an official request by the mayor so that they could do an assessment on their end and come back to us with various options. This does not obligate us in terms of contract. It doesn't cost us anything. They do it. But this is how we can maybe start moving the ball forward. It's a baby step, but it's a baby step that I think is important to take. And I'll be sending that out unless there's any objections from any of my colleagues. Of course, I will share it with everyone. Likewise, I will be making a formal, final protest through IGA, Intergovernmental Affairs, our liaison there to the governor's office. A final plea, if you will, for a solution regarding the tremendous hike, 22%, 23%, as Interim Administrator Schuster reported in the state health benefit premiums. We are 2 weeks away from the first of the new year, and there still is no deal. We don't expect a deal at this point for local and county employees on the state health plans. What we're asking for is the legislature to appropriate some funds to support us in this, or to provide grants for us to offset some of the cost that we're going to be swallowing, and to possibly consider phasing this in a little bit in 23, a little bit in 24, a final phase in 25. I will share that letter with you all also, unless there are any objections about my doing so. I also want to report that we had a very positive informational and educational meeting with members of the local union who have been part of the demonstration outside of our library during the demolition phase of our reconstruction there. We were not talking about the library project. Let me make that clear. There is nothing to talk about as it relates to the library project. There has been no changes to state law. We are required to accept the lowest bid. We did so. Our due diligence did not unveil unveil any information, bad information, anything for us to worry about as it related to the subcontractor. So that's not what our conversation was about. Our conversation was general information gathering about project labor agreements and about better practices in contracting ordinances. They shared some information with us. They gave us some examples of what those things look like. We will be sharing them internally with the rest of our colleagues here. And we will have that conversation with the public in the new year and see what is appropriate for Maplewood. So more on that future year. And also up on 1866 Springfield Avenue, our beloved Yale Corner. As some of you have probably heard through the grapevine, Yale Corner, a vacant lot there that we've been using as a public park, where we've been doing a lot of great community building things, changed ownership recently. It was bought by someone who is a very highly regarded affordable housing developer in the state of New Jersey. And this outfit, this gentleman, his name is John Restrepo Consulting, they are looking to develop that location into possibly 20 units of much needed affordable housing in the township of Maplewood. The units would be sold to first-time home buyers, providing each buyer with the opportunity to create wealth that will address generational poverty. The project will also revitalize that property. It's been vacant for over 10 years, in part because of environmental concerns. There are oil tanks underneath that need to be removed. The project could be a win on many levels. It's very, very early. We haven't seen anything in terms of a proposal. Obviously, a project like this will go through all the various approvals, planning board, zoning board. We will be discussing it in public input and participation. We're nowhere near that. However, the developer is applying for grants. He will be using a portion of funding that he's receiving through the state's Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and he is also looking to apply for a grant from the County of Essex called HOME, H-O-M-E. It's a community development block grant type of grant that we were talking about earlier with respect to the ADA bus for our seniors. At this moment in time, the developer is seeking the support of the Township Committee for his application for the grant from the county. That's all he's asking for. He recognizes that that's all we can do at this point until the project moves forward, if it moves forward. Today, we have a resolution in our consent agenda about this in support of his applying for the grant from the county. And I'm going to invite Deputy Mayor DeLuca, who is our affordable housing liaison, to add anything more to this that I may have left out.
No, I think you covered it, Mayor. Just we did have a meeting with our affordable housing attorney and also our affordable housing consultant. And, there are going to have to be some changes to our order with the court and our settlement with Fair Share Housing. But I think everyone was favorable about increasing the amount of affordable units in Maplewood.
Absolutely. And making them home ownership, possibly condos, would be even more of a major win, but more on that later. And that resolution is on the consent agenda tonight. Okay, and lastly, as others have remarked, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa. However you celebrate, we are one Maplewood. And we have had a tremendous opportunity already to meet in person, to stand together in unity as we have experienced a couple of menorah lightings already, and we turned on our Christmas lights on both trees that we have, our prominent trees at the gazebo and one in Dickens Village. We have another menorah lighting by our Orthodox Jewish community tomorrow night at 6:15 at Dickens Village. Please join us there. It has been wonderful to see people coming together and openly and visibly and proudly worshiping and celebrating along our Jewish family and friends, and all of us coming together. I mean, that's exactly what we need to be doing. That's what the holidays are all about. And we wish you all love, joy, and peace, and lots of health in the new year of 2023, just right around the corner, 2 weeks from now, unbelievably. So that ends my report. And now we have a report from Mayor Frank. Take it away, Mayor Frank.
Thank you, Mayor Daffis. I have a very robust and wholesome report. Nice. So first, important formalities. Public Safety Committee met earlier this month, and I'm happy to report the chief's narrative included the fact that the tactical responses that him and his team have put in place to address recent crime trends are positively impacting, some of the current situations we've been addressing. But note that the department on a weekly basis looks at the data and makes adjustments. So it's a very fluid process. You're not stagnant, but they have listened to the community as well as us as elected officials and are addressing issues that were brought up previously. Also, touching wood, we've had no robberies so far in the month of December, which is another positive sign that these tactical responses are going well. That said, thefts, package thefts, 'tis the season, and auto thefts, unattended vehicles continue to occur at this time and through the holiday season. So please do your best when you're getting your packages from various companies. Maybe ask in that fulfillment process to put it, on the side of the house or in the back or wherever you're comfortable with. And then also, opt into their text messages and emails so when the package arrives, so you could pick it up just as a mitigation to that process. From a metrics perspective, we have seen our overtime continues to decrease year over year, which is a great statistic because that's a cost related. And so I want to recognize Chief Sally and his team for their efforts and all that they've done in that regard. Continuing on the theme of public safety, I would like to share my screen, which I'm going to do right now. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. I want to announce the creation of a page on our website remembering our late Chief Jimmy Duvall. I want to personally recognize and thank Ms. Barnett, Bailey Barnett, for efforts of working diligently to get this done by the end of the year. Please, when you get a chance, we'll send some messaging out so that you can find this on the website, and it'll probably be on the homepage too in the coming day or so. But there's wonderful information about who he is, wonderful information about Jimmy, who was a Maplewoodian through and through, and just some beautiful words spoken by Mayor Daffis, Deputy Mayor DeLuca, all my colleagues, past and present, Debbie Giordano, who is a great friend, and it's just something that I just would advise everyone to take some time to look and reflect on Chief Duvall's service to our community. He'll be greatly missed. He was our guy, and that's just one of the many public safety meetings through the last 6 years that I had the opportunity to work and collaborate with him. I'll now go ahead and, if I may, and I think about my colleague, Mr. Limbrick, last year, and in his remarks, and for those who were there last year, you might recall that, and so the good news is that I won't be matching his efforts. So, but with that, I will start my remarks. It has been an honor to serve on our Township Committee for the last 6 years. First, I want to thank every single resident who voted for me 1 to 4 times over my tenure. We have done so much and been through so much more. From the coronavirus which changed everything to this day, to Ida, to the aftermath of July 5th, 2016, to fighting against Asian hate, anti-Semitism, representing commuters when the New Jersey Transit Tunnel work resulted in no trains running into the city, and the Black Lives Matter movement. And together, during this time, we've made tremendous leaps. The merger of our fire department with South Orange, the commencement of our new master plan, the first in nearly 2 decades, the growth of new small businesses, arguably more in the last 6 years than ever before in the history of our town. And we have the ribbon cutting pictures to prove it. New traffic calming measures, inclusive of bump outs, lighting, and signage. A new DeHart Park with basketball and tennis courts, and a revamped paddle tennis court in Walter Park. Numerous tree plantings and new operational equipment, from salt trucks for our DPW to electric police vehicles to fire apparatus, all to ensure quality town services. Voting registration drives, massive vaccination efforts for everyone in our community, and critical census participation. New committees, so our youth would have a voice, a community board, a community police board, and a collaborative board among South Orange and our school district. A collaborative working effort toward the approval of a $161 million bond to improve and fix our school district facilities across our community. Celebrating Juneteenth and taking our pride efforts to a new level, including New Jersey's first rainbow crosswalk and Black Lives Matter embedded on our streets for all to know. Together, we've suffered great losses. Bike shed owner, lifetime resident Danny Ives, Columbia High School soccer star Musa Fofana, coach and loving father husband Pat Jeffrey, and finally 42 amazing Maplewoodians that we lost due to COVID. And of course, Chief Demi Duvall. There's also been countless hours of hard work that the public does not see. The hundreds of ordinances, over 1,500 resolutions, and thousands of hours, and I do mean thousands of hours, of reading, meetings, phone calls, texts, and correspondences. Thousands of hours. But there are so many people to thank. First, thank you to each member of our community who volunteered or served on a committee. Several of you are the backbone of these committees, and I appreciate you. A deep and sincere thank you to our township family, Liz Fritzen, Lefties Unite, Chief Alvarez, Chief Sally, Candace Davenport, and Anna Marfikova, Nick Waltz, who's not here tonight, but an unsung hero who did so much for us behind the scenes during COVID with all our Zoom meetings, Melissa Mancuso, Jamie Miranda, E-Star, aka Eddie, Greg Schuster, Bailey Barnett, Glenn Michalowski, Roger Desiderio, a pillar of knowledge, Joe Kaloje, aka CFO Joe, Lenny Mendola, John Singleton, Annette De Palma, Chris Armiano, Don Ross, Debbie Giordano, Father Jim Worth, and our police chaplains, Cesar Riccardi, Timmy, Anna, and all our amazing DPW team. The reason I created our Employee of the Month Employee Spotlight program for the 2 years I was mayor was to recognize and celebrate all of you publicly. You represent the essence of our township. Thank you for your service, sacrifice, support, and dedication to our community. To my colleagues, both past and present, India, Greg, Nancy, Vic, Dean, and Jermaine, thank you. But we're more than colleagues. We're family with tons of fond memories, passionate moments, and most importantly, times of laughter. We have a special bond as members of the Township Committee, and each of you have played a key and collaborative role in our town's success. Be proud of your service and dedication to our community that we call home. And as we always say, we live here too. To my colleagues outside of Maplewood, South Orange President Sheena Collum, and trustees, Mayor Ross Baraka, Assembly members JC and McKeon, Governor Cody, Congress members Payne and Sherrill, and Governor Murphy, thank you. To my friend, trainer, frat brother, and Maplewood Stock founder Kevin Chandler, thanks for being a guide toward the light, assisting me with my physical and mental strength and balance. Thank you, brother. To my neighbors, thank you, Carlton Court crew. You've been with me through all the good and the ugly, and have served as a safe space for me to simply be frank. For always having a smile or my back, not to mention doing several last-second dog runs because I'm stuck in some committee meeting that I ran way over. Thank you, family. I love you all. Marie and Madison, you both have been there every step of the way. I couldn't have survived or given this town all of me, especially during my tenure as mayor, where those 2 years felt like 20. Thank you for your unconditional love. I love you. It was an honor to be the Ralph Jacobson of our modern day when I became the first mayor in 11 years in 2020, and just the 15th in our then 98-year history, and only our second Black mayor ever. I am also proud to be one of only 6 members in the history of our government to have served at all 3 levels of the committee: member, deputy mayor, and mayor. Maplewood is a vibrant community and has just scratched the surface of our political voice. During my tenure, we, alongside South Orange, served as the key votes in the 2017 election and the 2021 re-election of Governor Murphy, and the 2022 re-election of Congresswoman Sherrill. Our voice and more representation at all levels throughout New Jersey matters, so that our values are reflected and resoundingly heard. To quote my dear friend, frat brother, former mayor of New Orleans, and president and CEO of the National Urban League, Mark Morial, our commitment must be to build and bind towards a unity of purpose, values, and ideals. Let us never forget that. Thank you again to the people of Maplewood for this opportunity to serve our community at this level. My heart is full. Onward and upward.
Well, I feel like we should end there, our meeting tonight, right? That was great. I'm going to move that we extend our meeting beyond 9:30. Clearly, it's 9:25, and we're not going to make 9:30. So is there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Ms. Adams?
Did you not hear me? I said yes, right?
Ms.
No,
Craig?
we didn't hear you. Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca?
Yes.
Ms. McGee?
Oh, yes.
Mayor Daffis?
Yes.
Of course, you want your last meeting to go past 9:30.
Okay, this brings us to our discussion agenda. We have several items tonight. We'll start with Committee Member Adams, who's going to walk us through our regulations for parklets, streeteries, which have been previously circulated to the Township Committee for their suggestions, their edits, and what we're presenting tonight is the final product. Committee Member Adams, take it away.
Hopefully, yeah, there's a few things. I don't know how in depth you want me to get. Basically, what this does, as everyone has seen, is lay out a process for food establishments in the township to apply for a streetery, which is the planning vernacular that was created during COVID. Different from parklets in that parklets are generally use of parking spaces for public use, and streeteries are street parking spaces used for restaurant or food establishment eateries. So thus the word and why we use it. This was a long process of coming up with what we needed to lay out in this to allow for this as the Township Committee and for Maplewood Village, the Village Alliance Board voted in favor of continuing the ability for our food establishments to have streeteries, especially in the village where most of the sidewalks are too narrow to establish life on the street that is eating and dining outside. So these basically talk about process. An applicant needs to fill out a very lengthy application that we haven't developed yet. They will be based on these regulations. They have to apply by March 1st to be eligible for, if we choose April 15th. This committee needs to decide what the span of the outdoor dining season, because these will be seasonal streeteries, not year round. And also what they need to provide to the township, and then our professionals, engineering, police, fire, zoning, building, I should say, and to make sure that any application is in line with these multiple pages of regulations that we came up with. Some of it is with regard to design, some of it is with regard to using the street in a safe manner, and that's basically it. So there's a lot here, and obviously we don't want to go through it. There were a couple things I highlighted in red that we kind of need to talk about and decide. Why don't we start with April 15th through October 15th? That would be my motion to have the seasonal outdoor dining for these streeteries. I don't know how everyone else feels, but I open it up to my fellow committee members to see if that works for everyone.
I would move that to November 15th, but I'm not, that's not a hardline approach. I would support this as well. I think April 15th is definitely a good start date. How do others feel?
If I may, I will actually align with you, Mr. Daffis, either the 15th of October or the 15th of November, taking into account, at least in the village, the Halloween activity, and my concern, or probably all our concern, of having, that happening, basically taking things down during that period. So either right before it or definitely after, I'd be comfortable either way with Ms. Adams or with you, Mr. Daffis.
I concur, but I also would like to extend it actually maybe to to March 15th. Our weather, unfortunately, yay, global warming, has caused us not to have long winters anymore. And if the weather holds, and a lot of these businesses who've had established locations have heating and lighting and all this wonderful stuff already in there, so they could prospectively have people in there. I'm just thinking of ways in which they can have more time with their build than putting it up and taking it down in 6 months. I'm more in line with an 8 month, but that's just me.
Deputy Mayor McGehee, Deputy Mayor DeLuca, excuse me.
I guess I would split it. I would say April 1st through November 15th.
Okay.
So we have everybody's got a different date. So well, I suppose we don't need to land on this now, although it'd be nice to get a decision. So how about I just put a motion out there to April 1st through November 1st.
Well, that becomes the problem with Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween gets touched.
You got to, I think Mr. McGee, he said it right. Either got to be the 15th of October or 15th of November.
Yeah, so I was thinking too.
Yeah, that's a good amount of time. It's not the full 8 months, but what?
They don't need to keep it up that. long if they don't have the heating and stuff. So we could permit it for that season, like April 15th through November 15th. Does that sound good with everybody?
I'm good with that. If that's a motion, I would second it.
Okay. Great. Okay, so, and I will let the public know that, and the businesses, many have seen drafts of this. There are no, in these regulations, there are no permitted permanent structures as deemed permanent by our, building, construction code officials. So, there's not, we'll let that, I just wanted to let that out there because there are still a couple left in the village that need to come down by the end of this year. There was another part of this that Mr. DeLuca asked about, and it was with regard to the number of parking stalls we were allowing and the equivalent linear feet. So just to be clear, there was a good point. We can have 3 parking stalls in front of any food establishment that wants to do a streetery, and that is basically around 25 feet. So that makes sense because of the way they're diagonal, and it's really across and not, they're not parallel parking spaces for the most part. So that's why we have the equivalent of the number of feet, because 25 feet is actually less than 2 parallel parking spaces where that applies. But it's about, we're trying to get some consistency with the size of the streeteries, because we don't want them for the sake of neatness and parking and trying to find a balance between parking and using parking spaces for food service. We need to set a parameter with that. So if everyone's in agreement for 1 streetery for 1 business, we would go with 3 parking stalls or 25 linear feet. And then we also allow for communal ones as are used down in Maplewood Village right now. And that would be 5 parking spaces or 45 linear feet. And I can have the engineer finalize these numbers to make them more exact, but you understand the concept. And if you guys are all good with this in theory, we'll have the township engineer just solidify those numbers.
Ms. Adams, wasn't it 2 parking spots?
It was, but
Yeah.
Mr. DeLuca pointed out that a parking stall, the way because it's the width, not the length,
Mhm.
they like 9 to 10 feet, but 9 feet generally. So that would be 18 feet. So we had 2 parking stalls or 25 feet. So it just didn't.
Got it. To make it equitable.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that.
Everybody.
I'm good.
This works for me.
And then there was something else I had in red, so we'd not forget. Okay, so one provision we had was for streetery hours of operation to be in accordance with the hours of the restaurant operating the streetery. When businesses are not serving customers, streetery become parklets open to the public. So I'd ask Mr. Desiderio, a point Mr. DeLuca made in his review was whether or not the liability issue of property, right? So on the one hand, I think we have insurance parameters that they would need to provide COIs. We also can just have them sign a waiver that if they're going to set up a streetery, it's going to be open to the public. In other words, people, in the morning for restaurants that don't open until noon can sit there and have coffee. It makes sense with the way alive streets function. So I would like them to be parklets when they're not in use by the restaurant. But I just want to see if we need any legalese in there. Mr. Desiderio, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my thought, I guess, is that as a condition as a privilege of getting this, for want of a better term, license, that's a condition. So when they have to keep it insured, I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, and I think it's just tables, chairs, and maybe either a roof or umbrellas that, they're likely not going to have any glassware or utensils, they have to clean it up every day. So it's really not too much in that way. Does anybody on the township committee have any?
I guess my question is, I'm not really sure what we're saying here. And forgive me if I'm just being thick. It's been a week already and it's only Tuesday night. I mean, when would a restaurant not be serving their customers if they have a streetery out there?
Well, many of them aren't open for breakfast. So somebody goes, grabs a coffee, they walk down the street, they can sit at a table. And the theory behind it is they are using public space. And if their tables are on our municipal space, we want part of that provision to be when you're not using it as your open hours, then people can utilize it as a parklet.
Right. So why would a restaurateur or some other business owner say that they welcome that and that they have to have additional liability to protect activity that's not theirs?
Right. Well, it's sort of like if they have a bench in front of their store, people can sit on it. It's on a public sidewalk. When they're closed, people can use it.
It's the quid quo. I guess it's the quid quo.
Quid pro quo.
Pro quo for not making them take it down every night.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Thank you for that. I'm good with it.
So is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, trying to just real quick, see if there's anything else. We have the design guidelines from MVA, those done in the village, which is generally where we foresee any of them can be, just based on geography of our town. We'll have to get design approval from the Village Alliance. The fees, I would expect these have to be codified. This
Yeah.
is a suggestion, yeah. So you figure basically it's rent for the parking spaces.
Right.
I will say this is very reasonable compared to where I work, which have set fee structures so high that I don't see anybody using them. So we don't want that. We want these to be used. So any thoughts on those? Does that seem okay with everybody?
Works for me. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's all I have unless anyone has anything else. And then I just need a process. Do we need to put these in our ordinance? I assume like near the outdoor cafes, and then someone needs to come up with actual application forms. Right?
The answer is, yeah, I think this needs to be codified.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it does. I think it needs to be. I think it should be. With regard to the form, I would think that whatever department's going to be the one who's going to process these applications should be the ones that should put the form together.
Okay, I think it's a combination of the clerk's office and community development.
If I may, I think we could probably start with the application that we've had over the last year and before, and work off of that. And, you know, it's pretty simple. It has the insurance requirement, the certificate of insurance number. The application fee has been free over the last 3 years. So it's a little bit different with the fees to be charged, but why don't I get our current application to the township committee to take a look?
Why don't you just get it to me, Liz, and we'll work on it. I'll work on it with you and with code, and then we'll.
Okay.
The application doesn't go in the ordinance though, does it? It's
No,
just.
just make a reference to the.
No, it's an
application.
attachment.
Right, okay, so Roger, do you want to take a look at this and see if we can introduce in January so we can get this codified?
Yes, or you made some comments about going back to the engineer to check some things. I mean,
That
once
was the parking spaces, the size.
Right, once you say this is go, yes, I'll put it together. But if you want to check with Paul's department and have them figure that out and make some definitive answers with regard to that. Let me just make sure that I got I got distracted for a minute. Did we say April 15 to November 15?
Yes.
Ultimately, okay. I guess I wasn't as distracted as they thought.
Ms. Fritzen and Committeewoman Adams, based on a code, I believe, meeting a couple of months back, Director De Palma and I also had been looking at a draft for a digital application. So if that's something you're interested, we can send that along as well.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so I'll talk with engineering and get that to you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Great work on this. It was not an easy task. Lots of stakeholder meetings and lots of opinions out there. And since we're running late at this point, I'm just going to do a little editorializing, as I tend to do here and there sometimes. Look, speaking of opinions, I've seen some things in social media that are flat out not true. We are not taking away outdoor dining. We're enhancing it. We're bringing it back in a manner that is appropriate for our community. And in fact, what we did, we should be proud of. We did what we needed to do very swiftly in order to keep all of our businesses alive during the pandemic. Now it's time to do things in a more uniform, more equitable, more safe, and more better for Maplewood manner. And that's what this is about. And by the way, if you're upset about outdoor dining not being available now, talk to the restaurants. Luna Stella has outdoor dining. Lorena's has outdoor dining. Who else has outdoor dining? I was on a roll there and I got my mental list went away. There's sidewalk dining available as well. We heard from one merchant complaining that they had to take theirs down, or remarking that, sob story, they're taking it down. That merchant uses the entire sidewalk, and we've never said anything about it because we want them to continue thriving. And our business districts are thriving. It's incredible. We're so fortunate and grateful. So listen, folks, go out there and support our restaurants and don't make drama where there is no drama. All right, next, teacher parking. Committee member McGehee.
Thank you, Mayor. So the goal of this discussion item is essentially to address some of the pressures that have really been elevated this fall for the teachers and administrative and staff around MMS or Maplewood Middle School. We've been having conversations and correspondence with stakeholders since September, Public Safety, which I chair, and Mayor Daffis and Ms. Kripe are members. And so this assessment started under Chief Duvall, and then with his untimely passing was handed off to Chief Sally. In our last public safety meeting, he did an assessment and presented it to all of us, or to the committee, and I wanted to bring it here to the Township Committee. And I'm going to share my screen with one of his solutions, but essentially, be it the combination of potentially the library construction, the overarching cars that are no longer commuting into offices that are maybe on Burnett or Salter, and other factors. Our teachers are scrambling for spaces to subsequently get into school on time and teach our young people. So with that, through Chief Sally's assessment, and I actually walked the space after our train distribution this morning, he made a suggestion of looking into, I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see my screen? Just any thumbs up. Okay, thanks, Julie. He made the assessment and suggestion that we reimagine or look at the allocation of the parking spaces on this particular stretch of spaces, and find a way to have prioritization for teachers and faculty here. I counted them this morning. It's approximately 21 spaces on each side here of Maple. And there are spaces that myself and Chief Sally, others have been looking at also during other times during the day, and they're basically empty for most of the day. I'm going to go to a satellite view for those who may want to take a better look or deeper dive. But these are, and of course, I don't know when this was captured, but there are spaces here along this side. And if I can drop the little person right there, these are the spaces. So essentially the spaces go down this way, a little further if I can, down this way. I'm not sure when this was taken, but you can see this. It was taken in May 2022. So you can see that the spaces are still empty. And right now teachers can't park there. So the suggestion by the chief, and I do believe my colleagues support this, was to convert this or make this, earmark this for teacher faculty parking. So with that, I'll open up for discussion, and I also entertain Mayor Daffis or Ms. Bragg to fill any blanks that I have.
No, I think you covered it well. I mean, what we talked about at public safety at the time was looking at what our capacity is currently with respect to commuter parking. I know that a lot of commuters use those spots as well. I don't know what it looks like right now. And I'm wondering if we can figure out sort of a compromise that at certain times of the day, and so on and so forth. Ms. Fritzen, do you have any input here in terms of commuter capacity?
Well, the numbers are certainly down at this point. They really, I can't get a true feel yet, except things might change after the first of the year. But those spaces normally are not completely filled up. Mr. McGeehee is correct. But of course, everything's impacted now by the library construction, no question.
Yeah.
So, I would be open to including the teachers in that area. I think that our commuter parking permit level is not, certainly what it was, and I think you can do it.
And what about, committee member McGeehee, we talked about this during public safety too, parking along Salter. What does that look like?
I thought the parking was already allowed on Salter for teachers. It's
It
earmarked
is.
already with signs.
It
So
is.
those are already available, but the teachers are hoping to have more closer parking because there's not as much
Correct.
designated to them that's close.
Correct. I think it stops at 8. And so that's the truncated space they have.
So how many more are we looking at?
If we were to move forward, and it could be a phased approach with the 21 spaces here and then reevaluate, and then the 21 spaces there, that would be 42 incremental spaces. That's a lot of spaces, a good amount for teacher and faculty and staff. I can tell you that, if you want to do a phased approach, this is a great opportunity right here to provide 21 dedicated spaces that frankly aren't there currently for the middle school teachers and staff.
How many spaces are there total? Do we know how many spaces we have on this first phase of Denell that you're referring to?
Yes. So I actually went and did the space count after our train distribution this morning. There are literally 21 spaces on each side of this of Maple. There's actually like a little barrier right here, and I'm not sure I can grab it, but yeah, there's 21. Yeah, there it is right there. So there are literally I went a little too far. I apologize. So right here is the middle. There are 21 on this side, and there are literally 21 on this side. And in hindsight, I probably could have just used Google Maps instead of freezing counting them, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm uncomfortable saying that the entire lot is going to be designated for teacher parking every day during the week from 7 a.m. to 3:30 or whatever.
Yeah, and again, I totally understand that. And I leave it, to our committee, and that's why I'm saying a phased approach might be, again, this half. Let me take off this, go back to more of a layer, like doing this half as a phased approach and see what happens. That's 21 spaces currently, they don't have, and then see where you are from there. And you can revisit it, toward the end of the year. The Public Safety Committee can revisit it, or another committee. But I totally understand what you're saying. And I think when we first talked about it, initially, we were thinking more of this anyway. And then, Chief Sally was saying maybe even further back, but I think this is really where we all were in agreement, saying this would be a solid, say, fixed asset, and this would be the variable. So I'm aligning with you on that, Mayor Duffus.
Yeah, and I think we also have to keep in mind that it's only part of the year. After school is out in June, up until mid-August, those spaces will be available because the school's closed. Outside of a few summer things that happen during that time period, there's not going to be a need for that much parking through those other months. But I'm in agreement. I think that the teachers actually need a lot more space, and like Ms. Fritzen said, the library is causing a lot of the congestion and various things down there. And I think our folks that are our police officers and crossing guards are having a big enough struggle dealing with frustrated drivers trying to drop their children off, and people trying to commute. Making that an option no longer available for commuters allows them to go to a different route to find a parking space. So that takes some of the congestion out of there as well.
Thank you, Ms. Craig. Any other comments or thoughts?
So when I used to park for the train, what these signs say is that it's teacher parking or faculty parking. I don't remember exactly, but it says on school days only. So it allows folks to park. I would agree that we should dedicate the 21 north of Maple Avenue for teacher parking, but have the signs there so it's school only. So that would allow them during the summer, during the winter holidays, spring holidays, you can park there. It just makes it, just do what we do now, but just include these 21 spots on north of Maple Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. DeLuca. Ms. Adams, any thought? Oh, sorry, Mayor.
No, and then keeping the other 21 that are closest to the train for commuters, right?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go with it, Mr. McGehee. The 21, the last thing for school days and what Mr. DeLuca said.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Adams. Okay, we have a census or agreement here. What are our next steps? Do we do it to formalize this, or do we just take this back to, Mayor Daffis, you'll take this back to public safety and then come with the next appropriate steps.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. McGehee, moving that forward. I'm just noting it here so I don't forget.
If you do, the MMS teachers will remind you.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Okay. Deputy Mayor DeLuca, you have the next item on the discussion.
Yeah, I'm going to table the Burnett Avenue, Tuscan Road, and Lexington Avenue and Tuscan Street until January 3rd. Also ask Ms. Adams if we can table the Inwood to January 3rd.
Yes.
Okay, and then just deal with the compost pilot extension, and have Ms. Barnett is going to report on that, including the move over to the pool parking lot.
It would be better too to have Mr. Kittner have some sort of diagram for Inwood before we discuss it anyway.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to Ms. Barnett.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor DeLuca. So we recently came up on the end of our second compost pilot phase. So the first phase was 6 months. The second was 8. The results were good. We had steady participation. We did have some attrition, but it was primarily from folks who were interested in composting at home, or then we did have the occasional person who, due to life circumstances, was unable to do it, but for the most part had strong participation, strong feedback. We got a better idea of where our numbers were going to be at more consistently over the second 8 months. We've definitely hit more of a consistent weekly average, and some of that is attributed to people adjusting their consumption habits based off of the food waste they're seeing. And we do see an increase around the holidays, but for the most part, we have a good idea of what our need is and what the capacity of the program is and how that serves our population. So we have a small wait list going right now. And one of the major concerns that we have heard from participants and interested households is that DPW, it's great, it's convenient to have the compost center there near the recycling, but it would be more convenient if it was A, at a more accessible location, and B, somewhere that didn't have restricted hours, especially since DPW follows outside of their early Saturday hours, pretty much traditional 9 to 5 work week hours, obviously adjusted slightly by an hour or two, but a lot of working folks aren't able to get there in time to drop off their compost. And it makes it very difficult for them to participate in the program because they have a buildup of this food waste in their house. So in response to those residents' requests and in response to feedback from DPW staff as well, the compost pilot at our Engineering, Planning, and Public Works Committee, it was agreed that it would be extended for another year with further evaluation at that point. But for the time being, we'll maintain at the existing 75 households and move the location to the community pool parking lot, but flush against the concrete island that is across from the community garden. This would allow it to be more accessible and open to residents than the DPW, but also alleviates any concerns of it taking up parking from library patrons, library staff, or anybody come summer who's visiting the pool. It'll only take up a couple of parking spots and further from both the pool and the library towards the back. So that's the recommendation that comes out of Engineering, Planning, and Public Works for moving forward. And we are hoping to see some continued success with that program as we go. At this point, I believe we've diverted over, I want to say 11 tons of food waste. So that's a really, really big accomplishment. So congrats to everybody who's participated and kept all of that waste out of the landfill.
So I would move that we extend the compost pilot project for an additional 12 months in 2023. And that we move the site to the pool parking lot as designated by DPW.
I'll second the motion, Mr. DeLuca.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Boards and committee demographic report, Mr. DeLuca.
Mayor, I'm going to move that to January 3rd in the interest of time.
Thank you. Okay, the last two I have, but I spoke about one of them already. So let's talk about Ogie's Brands. This is the Class 2 manufacturer's license. We provided a conditional Maplewood license approval on May 17th per resolution. And that was conditioned upon several things. Receipt of proof of their state license, which they have recently received, and it's been provided to all of you. Receipt of their attestation to not have armed personnel or employees. They have forwarded that. Receipt of their diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. They have provided that. And also an attestation about odor and noise mitigation. They have provided that. Accordingly, they have met the conditions we have previously placed. And this evening, by resolution number 374-22, I move that we adopt a resolution approving them for cannabis manufacturing license in our township.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Fritzen. And the last item I referenced during my report, we spoke about it. Unless there are any objections, I will be providing a letter of support to the developer to support his application to the county for the grant, as we discussed.
Are you making a motion?
I move it.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
Mr. McGehee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes. Someone move the consent agenda items 13A through 13, through 13-1, including the closed session minutes of December 6th.
Mayor, I will move the consent agenda resolution number 363-22, 13.A through 13.1. 13.I, excuse me.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Craig,
Is it 13.I or 13.L?
It's 13.L, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
I have I on my paper. All right. I will go back and amend my motion and move 13.A through 13.L.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes, again.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
possibly for the last time. Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you all. This is our second public comment period for any subject matter. Ms. Barnett. Uh-oh, I think we have, Ms. Barnett has frozen.
We have nobody who raised their hand, Mayor.
Yeah, I don't see anyone. I will just say it one last time. Are there members of the public who wish to make a public comment? Now's your chance. Raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, we're going to close the public comment. We will, I move that we adjourn and meet again on January 1st, our annual reorg at 2 p.m. The meeting will be virtual.
Second.
Ms. Adams,
Yes.
Ms. Cripe,
Yes.
Mr. DeLuca,
Yes.
I think possibly for the last time. Mr. McGee,
Yes, and thank you.
Mayor Daffis.
Yes, thank you and good night, everyone, and happy holidays. Stay safe and be well.
Night.
All right. Looks like everyone's leaving. So I'm hoping
We are. We
that-
have to go into the,
I don't have a link.
I don't have a link either. Did he send it?
yeah, I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
My Gmail or my Township. Bye, Bailey. You're like nobody. Yeah, you're. Merry Christmas.
You too.